Umpires are the true underrated heroes of baseball. That's right, not Gaetti. These men are underrated. Today, we're going to talk about a man named Bill Summers. If you haven't heard of Bill Summers, you're in for a treat. Not only was Bill an umpire during the golden years of baseball, but he was a good one at that. He was also a bit odd. He was odd because he actually wanted to be a baseball umpire. Now, why would you want to become an umpire?
The umpires are having things thrown at them from the crowd here at Fenway, and they are going to pull these players and the umpires off the field for their own safety.
They're only criticized, they're never praised. They get tasked with the most impossible calls.
We've blown the picture up a little from the home plate camera. Now let's watch this nice and easy. There it is. I don't know.
And okay, sometimes the criticism really is justified. But seriously, I've got no idea why in the world anyone would want to be an umpire. Bill Summers was born in November 1895. He dropped out of school in 7th grade and trained for a little while to become a boxer. He was working in road construction one day in 1913 when he stopped to watch a high school baseball game. The umpire who was supposed to work that game never arrived, so the local coach asked Summers to fill in. Now, Bill had never played baseball. He didn't really know the rules all that well, but the coach told him if he knew how to tell a ball from a strike, he could do it, and he did a fairly good job. He spent the next 8 years umpiring from time to time. Eventually, Bill was hired by the Eastern League in 1921. He worked his way up until he joined the American League as an umpire in 1933. He was 37 years old. Now, like any umpire, Summers has had his share of controversial calls. You probably know about this one, for example. But what you've likely never heard about is the time Bill Summers was almost killed because of a good call. We're going to have to go back to the summer of 1936. War was on the horizon in Europe. And as usual, the Yankees were in first place in the American League. The Yankees were in Chicago on July 26 for a doubleheader, the last 2 games of a 3-game series. This doubleheader got started off on the wrong foot. There were 50,000 fans at Comiskey Park that day, and they were all upset from the very beginning. Their ire was directed at umpire Charles Johnston, who had thrown White Sox manager Jimmy Dykes and catcher Luke Sewell out the day before for arguing balls and strikes. Johnston had left after the end of that game under a police escort. From time to time in both games of the doubleheader, the Chicago fans threw debris onto the playing field. Play was halted several times. And then came the 8th inning. In the bottom of the 8th, the White Sox were at bat, trailing by 8-7. Luke Sewell, who had been ejected the day before, had just stolen second base. There were 2 men out. Rip Radcliffe, White Sox leadoff hitter, hit a bouncer to the right side. Lou Gehrig fielded the ball and flipped over to relief pitcher Pat Malone covering at first base. Malone reached the bag in time, and Johnston, the umpire at first, called Radcliffe out. Johnston then turned his back on the play. Malone dropped the ball after Radcliffe ran into him. The crowd went wild. Johnston turned around again and saw the ball on the ground. New York Yankees players surrounded him. Johnston, instead of changing his call, asked Bill Summers for help. Now, Bill Summers was at third base. He saw the play and made the right call. He saw and said that the ball came loose because Radcliffe ran into Malone and ruled that Radcliffe was still out. Pop bottles and cans rained down from the stands. They continued to fall as the game proceeded through the top of the 9th inning. The fans were aiming this time at Bill Summers. And then, when all seemed lost for them, White Sox first baseman Zeke Bonaraw hit a home run deep into the bleachers in left field. Just as that ball crossed over the fence, Summers was struck in the groin by a thrown bottle. Reports indicated that Summers lay on the field for a few minutes. He left the field afterwards after coming to. The Yankees went on to win this game in 11 innings, but nobody remembers that part. You'd think that would have caused him to stop umpiring. Not Bill. Now, Bill was an old-fashioned tough guy. In fact, Summers, at only 40 years old, umpired his first World Series that very year in 1936. Bill umpired in 8 different World Series and 7 All-Star games. His career stretched from 1933 to 1959. Report had it that he helped overhaul the baseball rulebook as part of the Rules Committee in the late 1950s. And the amazing thing is that he accomplished all of this in spite of the fact that a crowd literally tried to kill him over a good call. Like I said, this man is underrated.